Yes, welcome everyone. This is another episode of the Football Philosophy Podcast, and with me today is Nathan Best from. Can you remind me again?
So I work for Czech Media, so footy accumulators to anyone who's out there in a minute. So
That's the one.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's me. I've been part of the group for a while now, but to be fair, this has been my first podcast in quite a while. Like in terms of having me on, just been busy stuff like that scheduling, but I'm happy
yeah.
to be
No,
on.
we've
So,
not. Yeah, we have not been doing many episodes ourselves. It's just been on and off. Kind of like your favorite club season, really. Man United, the last 2, 3 seasons, on and off, really. But yeah. We will be talking about today. Obviously, it's international break this weekend, as we know, but we're just gonna have a quick look back at the United loss to Liverpool, or should we say the Liverpool win at Old Trafford, which was just amazing for them. Arne Slot's first game. We're gonna talk about what went wrong for Eric Ten Hag. Where did Arne Slot manage to expose the fragilities within the system of Ten Hag? And just in general, we're gonna have a quick look at the Premier League so far. From what we've seen so far from all the big teams, we've seen Arsenal drawing against Brighton on Saturday, with Declan Rice being sent off. Haaland just scoring goals for fun, 7 goals in 3 games, and apparently Pep Guardiola has said that the preseason has ended and that the new season is going to start after the international break. This is a team that has got already 9 out of 9 points. Their best striker has scored hat trick in back-to-back games. They managed to beat Chelsea away and West Ham away, which is not an easy game. And to them, the preseason has just finished now and is ludicrous. Like, we're gonna get into all of that. We're gonna look into also, if we have a bit of time, just talk about La Liga and Mbappe getting off the mark. And also Hansi Flick, what is he doing in Barcelona? They've played 4 games, won all four, scored 13 goals, conceded only 3 goals. So yeah, we're gonna look into all of that. And Juventus and Thiago Motta is just doing crazy things over there, as it seems. And Lukaku is off the mark with Antonio Conte, so he seems to be doing really well over there, as always with Antonio Conte. But first, Nathan, let's start with the big one, yeah? With Eric Ten Hag and Arne Slot, the first game between them in England. Obviously, they faced each other 4 times in Holland. Ten Hag won twice, Arne Slot won twice, with AZ Alkmaar one time, and another time it was with Feyenoord. So there was a bit of history between the two managers. And let's just say that where I stand with everything that happened from that game is that Ten Hag knew exactly everything that Arne Slot would do, but he walked straight into his trap. And I'm just gonna put everything out there from the beginning and say that, in my opinion, like, for whatever it's worth, Ten Hag got it wrong that day. And I know that a lot of people seem to be disagreeing with that, but I want to see, Nathan, what your take on that game was, and just in general, where did things go wrong for United? Because I know you're a big United fan. Where did Arne Slot manage to expose the weakness of United? And is there a road for recovery for Ten Hag? I know it's only 3, 4 games into the season if you include the Community Shield, but is this it, or is he already in the warning shots? What's your general opinion?
to be honest, like I think there's always time and sort of a spectrum for managers to always turn it round. And obviously, like gone are the days of say the likes of Frank de Boer coming in for 4 games with Crystal Palace and then getting sacked right away. But I think really you say about Ten Hag say walked into his trap and stuff like that. I don't think it's that was the case. I think really over the first three games in particular, I think the warning signs, well, especially the first three games, I think the warning signs have been there. They have been there from last season. Is that tactically, Manchester United are going into games where they're not set up properly as a team. So if you really divulge into how they set up United, it goes on like this. It's like defense goes into a low block, so it goes all the way back. Midfield stays as it is, and the attack press, which is an awful thing to do because as soon as that press is beaten, the defensive low block and the midfield are just completely bypassed. So you get overrun in midfield time and time again. And it's happened for majority of last season because obviously you saw a different style of play from Ten Hag's first season to his second season, now his third season. There's no real sort of method behind the madness type situation. I think I think the warning signs were there in the first two games because like Fulham ideally should have got a point out of Old Trafford because the amount of times they broke on United, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
this is the team that United played with. But yeah, if you, I know you wanted to explain a little bit about the formation that United came in. So yeah, have a go at it. Go on.
See, the trouble is right as well. If you're playing Bruno and Xerxes drops into Bruno's space, right? So they're both of them are going to occupy the same space, right? Which you don't actually need. If you're going to play Xerxes, you're gonna have to play him really whilst dropping Bruno back and going into a three in midfield. Say Casemiro in front of the two defenders and Mainu and Bruno in between. Mainu and Bruno above Casemiro rather than going to 4-2-3-1. You ideally need to go 4-3-3 if you're going to play Xerxes, not a 4-2-3-1 because Xerxes goes into Bruno's space. Second of all, the defensive line for that game and this season as well, it's the 19th lowest line in the Premier League. So with United are playing basically, like Ipswich Town territory. That's not a disrespect to Ipswich Town, I'm just making a comparison. But it's like
Yeah.
you're playing like a relegated team, essentially.
So it's not really 4-2-3-1. It's more 4-2-4.
Yeah, it's set up as a 4-2-3-1, but it goes 4-2-4. And then
Yeah,
what happens is that as soon as the attacking press is broken upon, which United's team can't press from the front at all,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It gets put back, and the issue is that this isn't just a one game thing. This is a multi-game issue where I've said this in the chat multiple times that like in terms of results, like in terms of obviously like last season with Ten Hag or injuries and stuff like that, I completely understand that. But I think the issue is that the same tactical faults keep happening and happening, happening, happening. At the end of the day, football's a results business. You're going to get judged
But
based on
no,
results.
I agree with you, Nathan. It is a long term thing, and he has been doing this for a long time. But I just want to really just focus on this point of Ten Hag playing with a low back four, like you said, is the
Mm,
lowest. There's only one team lower than the centre halves. Yeah,
yeah.
and is it because he believes that he doesn't have the midfielders to control the game, so he would rather play with almost four up front, obviously putting the pressure on top, leaving the whole, basically bypassing the whole midfield. It's like the Dutch version of Sean Dyche. Like it's only centre backs and forwards. There's no midfield at United. Is it a mad version of that, or is it because he really thinks that this will put his team on the front forward?
No, what it is someone playing Football Manager for the first time and not realizing the actual tactics of like the game from Ten Hag's point of view. Because literally, it's like if you play with a low block defense, like when you set up, you don't set up in departments, you set up as a team. Like, for example, the first season was a mid block team all round because he didn't have the whole thing that season was he didn't have a team to play on the front foot and press. He's now got a back line and a midfield. Like, really, only Casemiro should be the one that's deep back, really. The rest can sort of press up and sort of be a bit more further forward. It's just the issue is that, like, you're leaving your midfield exposed. You see Mainu's getting slightly run into the ground as well because he's having to cover for the fact that Casemiro can't keep up anymore. It's just sort of it's chaos all round. And the thing is, I'm like I think people are willing to give him time and sort of rectify things. Because obviously, you don't have a knee jerk decision and getting rid of managers. Is the issue is that he's been setting up like this continuously for the last 14 months. And the record, like you talk about results business, the record stands at Man United have won 5 Premier League games in 17. That's 15 points from 51. That's relegation form.
Wow.
Do you know
Wow.
what
The
I mean?
last 17 games, won only 5 games.
Yeah, so it's either 5 from 16 or 5 from 17, but either way, it's that. It's
But
like
also, we have to remember this is where someone like Trey, who's not, yours truly Trey, he's not on this show with us, but he would say that there have been a lot of injuries. So do you see what I mean?
yeah,
Is
again,
there is there any forgiveness for that for Ten Hag, or you're like there's no circumstance where a Manchester United team should be winning only 5 out of 17 games?
I understand the injury thing. I think this is where sort of like sort of maybe views a bit misconstrued and stuff like that. Injury is obviously part of football, and they obviously like if you say lose your best striker and you have to replace him with someone from the youth academy, for example, obviously that's going to be a massive drop in quality. It's
Yeah.
just the issue is that like managers can sort of negate things and sort of go right, okay, you're not going to be able to play where you want to, but you can sort of set yourself up so you make yourself harder to beat. So
Yes.
if you have lesser quality, don't try to play to players with greater quality, if that makes sense. So, for example, like if you're playing, if you say if Mainu gets injured and Ericsson comes in, right? In no retrospective form do you want Christian Eriksen pressing on the striker. Do you know what I mean? Have a bit of
Exactly.
have
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
bit of reservedness and have a bit of going
But
like
he
right.
tried that. He tried that against Brentford in his first game away. I mean, his second game. I think his first game was Brighton, right at home.
Yeah,
He tried that with Brentford, and we lost 4-0.
yeah. I mean, and
So yeah,
I get with the injuries and stuff like that. But there was also games last season where the setup means that you're somehow conceding 17 shots to Newport County. You should like any Man United team should not be conceding anything less like anything more than five. Like, but like I said, with it, like I think people are willing to give him
but
time and
what?
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
but
that's what I was about to say. So whatever happened last season, it's already happened. Like there's nothing that we can do about it. It's for a fact now. United finished eighth. They won the FA Cup. That's fine. Let's move on from that. Yeah, but as far as this season is concerned, yeah, we are seeing Man United playing probably, especially the game against Liverpool, with their best back four, with the exception of maybe Luke Shaw. But if you look at this back four that started now against Liverpool, I think that's as good as it can get without Luke Shaw. And it's not, for me, it's not a personal issue. Like honestly, I'm seeing so many people blaming Casemiro for the first and second goal. Yes, he gave the ball away, but this is football. People make mistakes left, right, and center. Do you think that Casemiro managed to win 5 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid without making a single mistake? It's not about that. In my opinion, in the game of football, you can make mistakes. It happens, but it's about what you can do to rectify that mistake. Like, can you? This is something that Ralph Ragnick used to talk about a lot. I know a lot of United fans don't rate him, but for me personally, I rate him because I think he's a great coach. It's just that United was a mess when he came in, and he wasn't given enough time to really to do the heart surgery that he wanted to do to the club. But one of the things that he used to talk a lot about was he used to say you need to take the guessing out of the game. So like make sure that you know exactly, be sure of everything 100%. And if there is a mistake, what can you do to recover from that mistake? So what I mean by that is Casemiro makes a mistake for the first goal, but where is Diego Dalot to cover that space? Where is Mazraoui to cover Luis Diaz? At one point, Diego Jota, like I was watching the obviously painfully the highlights and people talking about Jota and what he was doing. You can see Diego Jota pointing at Luis Diaz, telling the guy who's about to cross the ball, cross it to him because he's free. There's nobody marking him. So I think it was the wrong thing to do for Ten Hag to attack with both fullbacks. This is my honest opinion, because what that does to you is, if we just have a look here at yeah, if you look at Mazraoui, for example, and Dalot, yeah, who are they facing? Who are the two wingers that they're playing against? It's Salah and Diaz. Is And they are the quickest forward line you could ever come across. And for Ten Hag to leave his centre backs exposed against the three fastest forwards, and not only that, the pressing machine that Szoboszlai is, McAllister with his qualities, and without the pressing on Gravenberch from Bruno Fernandes, from Zexi, from Rashford, there was zero, absolutely zero work rate from at least 5 or 6 players in that team. Mazraoui and Dalot, they tried to attack and come back, but what can you do to rectify the mistakes when the mistakes happen? He didn't prepare that. And that's what I'm saying with Ten Hag. For me, what he was thinking about was, how can I win this game? And that's it. It's by attacking them, by attacking Liverpool. What he forgot was how good they are attacking you, and how, if you leave a lot of spaces for Martinez and Delict to deal with, it's not gonna work out. And you obviously have Casemiro, who for me is obviously aging, but he still has a lot of good qualities. And I agree with you. You need to have him in that number 6. Just tell him to sit there and let Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Menu just do whatever they need to do in terms of attacking. And the second goal, if you look at it, Kobe Menu was on his own, and he's being pressed by how many Liverpool players? We've seen it all. That shouldn't be happening. If he loses the ball, there should be someone covering him. But it's just silly mistakes again and again and again. So if, for example, the first mistakes happen, yeah, actually before they scored the first goal, Liverpool, there was a goal disallowed by Alexander Arnold, right? If you remember the goal that he scored, it was quite funny because he actually kissed the camera like Gerrard used to do. Um, but that was a warning shot, right? You've got the warning as the manager. What can you do about it? And this is what I don't understand, because I believe that he's a very good manager when it comes to in-game management. We've seen how he did it in his first season. So
I disagree on the in-game management thing, because there have been certain games where, like,
no, I'm
if
talking about
you
his first game at United, his first season at United. He was very good at making substitutions. And one of the games that I can remember is Barcelona at home and also away, where he flipped the game on his head. The game against City at home. Like, there's big games that I can remember where, for example, what he would do is that he would start with Fred, Bruno, and McTominay or someone else, let's say, or Ericsson, for example. And that midfield had a lot of balance to it. But whenever Ericsson was getting tired, he would substitute him. After 60 minutes, 70 minutes, he would bring in the right players. He would have, even like Anthony Ilanga used to come on and actually do something good with it. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes Anthony would come in, and his in-game management, I thought it was really good, but he's he seems to have lost his way. Obviously, the second season, I don't know, whatever the reasons are, whether it's due to injuries, whether it is teams finding out how he actually plays, that it's not that good, or the players not adapting to his system well. I don't know. There's just so many things going wrong.
can I
But
can I
I
ask you a
just want
question?
him to do
Go
one
on,
thing, right? And this backline that we talked about now, I just want him to push them up higher, leave Casemiro to deal with the defending, and whenever we don't have the ball, just play with a simple 8-man block. Just bring everyone back to the reason I'm saying that is because we've seen the template. We've seen them play that way against City and win it. So why wouldn't you repeat the same thing against Liverpool? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, like, I was going to quickly ask you a question. Did you hear Ten Hag's quotes about are we, like, United have been like the second best team in England because of the trophies,
I,
wise
I have seen it. Yeah,
behind Man City.
yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question now. Despite winning those two trophies, do you actually feel as though you have won those two trophies.
I think that this is what people call gaslighting.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
because to be honest, like,
It doesn't feel like it.
nah, because no, fair, you'd rather be in Arsenal's position, really. Like as much as Arteta gets criticised for not winning the trophy, and it's a similar thing for when Klopp had his project at Liverpool that he didn't take the domestic trophies as seriously as what he should have early doors, and so just getting one on the board as well as league progress. But it's like the trophy type of thing. It's a great dopamine feeling on the day. You win it, it's great in that. But then when you analyze the bigger picture, it's eighth place from third.
Yes,
It's
but what he can do, and obviously we have seen the have you seen the video where Lautaro Martinez and Garnacho were being awarded for winning the Copa America with Argentina before the Community Shield? Have you seen that speech that he gave?
no, I haven't. No,
So yeah, so with in that speech, Ten Hag talks about the feeling of winning, that great feeling of beating Man City. I'm sure it was in that video, or if it was another video, I don't know. But he talked about having the confidence and the belief that you can get from beating a Pep Guardiola team, a team that has won 4 league titles in a row, who is right now the best team in the world. Probably Real Madrid would dispute that, but so you can use that as a motivational sort of aspect for the team for the rest of the season, especially in the big games. And like you can say, if you really believe in me, guys, this is what you can do. This is the sweet joy of winning trophies. So in that aspect, yes, I agree with him. You know, it is amazing to have won the FA Cup, to have won the League Cup. But are United right now in a position where they can say, for example, because they've won the FA Cup, now they can go on to win the league, the Premier League? I don't think they are. But
no
it's
idea.
still, the start of the season. So I agree with you. It's a little bit gaslighting because he wants you to believe something that's not there. Like factually, yes, United have won the most trophies since City, but when it comes to actually looking at the performances, the feeling around the club, and the way the players are playing, the way they are coached, it doesn't feel like they are the best team, are the second best team to City. There are plenty of teams right now before United who have had a good season last season, who had at least the last 2 seasons, who have been on a high trajectory than United, like Villa right now in the Champions League, and they've won 2 out of 3 games already, I think.
Yeah, they beat. Then they beat West Ham. They lost to Arsenal, and oh, who did they bloody have?
Yeah, I think they
Leicester.
won. Yeah, they beat Leicester
Leicester.
2-1. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So they can say that they are on a better trajectory than United are right now, because
yeah.
if you
It's
look at their team, at least you can see a certain pattern of style of play. And he has had a lot of injuries to deal with, Ona Emre, if you think about it. Just the same amount of injuries, not the same amount of injuries like overall, but in terms of the key players being injured, he has had the same amount of injuries to Eric Ten Hag. And on top of that, he's had to sell Douglas Lewis to Juventus. So and Ten Hag is getting supported on the other hand with more and more and more players. So I don't know, man. But for me, this system, for it to work, you're right. Bruno, Zexi, they can't get in each other's way. Rashford just needs to wake up. Garnacho is probably just recovering from playing the Copa America. Casemiro needs to play a little bit deeper, push the back line a little bit higher. That's what I would say. But yeah, go on.
yeah. What I do? I'd scrap the 4-2-3-1 and just go right. I know, I know Bruno being a bit deeper does negate things, but he can sort of roam forward and that. But you just have it so it's like Casemiro sits in front of the defense, because how many times per game do you see your CDM as the highest attacking player? And you kind of sit there and go, that should never ever happen. Your CDM being pressing on the centre
No, but
half.
you see, I don't have a problem with that if you've got someone covering his space. Do you see what I mean? Like,
But
because
that's That's the thing,
What?
though. Mainu's like in a position where it's like,
No, it's
I
not even
mean,
about Menu. It's not even about Menu. I'm talking about here the back line. If they are higher, like
yeah.
if they got a higher line and they're holding people offside, where Martinez for me he's comfortable to play in that position. Like you can leave him there whenever Casemiro goes up higher. So this is what I mean. Like, do you see when the Dutch talk about total football? They don't mean like they've invented the game, but what they mean by that is I've listened to a lot of Dutch people actually talk about this, like Yap Stam or these guys. When they talk about total football, they say it's about the right back can play any position on the position, or the left back can play any position so it's like one player can play in any position, so that if the let's say the left back ends up where Garnacho is on the right, he doesn't have to run back all the way just to cover his space, but he could have someone else covering for him and who's comfortably able to play in that position. So with Ten Hag, I really have no idea what he's doing with this system because it's suicidal. You cannot leave this midfield so exposed like that. You can't. If you want your team to press up high, you need to get your back line pushing up higher. It's just chemistry.
All you
One
got
player
to do,
goes
all you got to do
forward.
is move it up 10 yards. That's all you got to do. It's like even if you don't want to go full on pressing, even if you put it into a standard mid block, you could just go right. So they're not like right on the defensive edge. So you just go right further 10 yards forward.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. If people want to try and get round it, it can happen. But it's like if you're
Yeah, but
gonna do that,
we can see that. And we're not football coaches. And why is you not seeing this space in midfield? Why?
because you saw in the press conference question when he got asked, like he asked one of the journalists about so what mistakes are we doing every week? And the
Yeah, yeah,
journalist
I
and
remember. Yeah.
the journalist actually, to be fair, I really respect this. He actually turned around and said everything what's been happening. To which Ted Hag just turned around and went, "Oh yeah, but we did beat Man City in the FA Cup final and stuff like that." And I'm just like, that's really shifting the goalposts.
Yeah,
That's
and yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This is gaslighting, man. He's talking about something that's not even there, and he wants you to believe. And it's like, eh, why? Why go into all of that? Just say what you need to say. Stop telling people something that's not there, and that's not like is he just missing sometimes I feel like he doesn't understand what they're actually talking about, or maybe there's a little bit of a language barrier, or maybe this is just his way of dealing with the press. But just talking about that, because I think I want to talk about Liverpool as well. But just lastly, talking about that question and the way the journalist asked that question to Eric Ten Hag, can you see him asking the same way to Klopp, Pep, Jose, Sir Alex, Arsene Wenger, being disrespected like that?
no, because I think really like obviously to be fair, every Man United manager since Fergie is obviously going to have the massive target on his back, which is one thing I kind of do sympathise with. But then at the same time, it's like United is the biggest pressure cooker job in football away from Real Madrid. You know, at Liverpool, like obviously at times Klopp was questioned on certain things and whatnot, but then Klopp in the next 5 games would win 5 games. Do you know what I mean? Pep Pep was questioning whether they were getting the best out of Erling Haaland. Oh look, he just breaks the goal scoring record in his first season and scores another 27 the season after. I think he's doing fine. Do you know what I mean? Um, whereas with Ten Hag, it's like he's to be like I think what hasn't helped Ten Hag's situation generally, if I'm gonna like say play devil's advocate here, is that his job has been in limbo since the new ownership's come in. And even now, like you see the quotes coming out saying that, oh, the Barada and that back Ten Hag. But I'm kind of sat there going, yeah, but here's the thing: when when have you ever heard an ownership just turn around and go, nah, he basically he's got 5 games to fix it. They'll always turn around and say they'll back him, but I think internally they'll be, well, it's got reported today that internally they're basically saying that look, you know. We're going to give you time, but if results don't improve, you're gone. Do you know what I mean? And it wouldn't. And you got to think like I don't think Ten Hag was the first choice to stay because they would be talking to other managers if they weren't going to go fully back him in the beginning. Do you know what I mean? You don't go talking to other managers if you fully trust the man you already have in charge. It's
Yeah,
it's ba- it's
yeah,
basically like if you're unhappy in the well, if you say you're happy in a marriage, why are you trying to talk to other women? Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like you wouldn't, would you? You'd stay
No,
faithful.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
No, you wouldn't be going shopping. You're right.
yeah,
But no, I think they had every right to have a look around, and then basically go through the whole hiring, um, sort of like process again with him because they didn't hire him. Do you see what I mean? It wasn't.
mm,
He is not their man. So there are so many things that they liked about Ten Hag. One was his flexibility in terms of him actually listening to ideas being suggested by the new guys like the guy Wilcox. I think he came up with the idea of United playing sort of like false nine through the end of the season, and Ten Hag said, "Yep, that's a it's an idea that we can look into." And that's how they managed to beat City and Brighton and I think Newcastle sort of like towards the end of the season. So they saw that he was a little bit flexible and willing to be part of a team. And the guys that they spoke with, for example, Thomas Tuchel wasn't going to be playing ball. Um, but for me, I think also him winning the FA Cup, they didn't want to upset the fan base. So that basically made their mind up. But from the moment that he won the FA Cup, the fans were happy with him. There's a new season, new era, and there was just like so much good feeling and vibe all around the club that they didn't want to upset the apple cart at the time. So they just thought like, you know what, let's just extend it anyway. So I don't see any problem with that, and I wouldn't sack him right now. Before people
no, no,
say
no,
that,
no. Like
I
it's
wouldn't get rid of him. And there is nothing wrong with saying the manager got it wrong. There's so many people out there who have a problem with me saying this, and I tweeted this as well. I put it on X as soon as the game finished. Ten Hag got this wrong. So you seen a lot of people. If you say that, they automatically think like, "Oh, you want the manager out." No, it doesn't mean that. It just means he got it wrong. He needs to get it right the next game. And if he doesn't get it right the next game or the one after that, he's gonna risk losing his job. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
yeah, it's like I said before. Like Christmas, like up until Christmas is a fair sort of estimate of time because it's like obviously circumstances do negate his to find out. If he gets a whole lot of injuries again, you kind of think, is it ever going to go right? But if he keeps majority of his squad fit, say 18 out of 23 fit on a consistent basis, and you're still playing kamikaze football, I'm not going to be sat there, smoking the copium, being like, yeah, everything will be fine, stuff like that. If clearly things are wrong, things are wrong. But anyway, should we move
Yeah.
on to a happier topic? Because I'm getting really depressed talking about this.
Yeah, no, yeah, let's talk about yeah, what did you think of Liverpool anyway? And like Arnold Slot, his first game in against Manchester United. What did you make of that? This was the lineup they came in with.
Yeah, I mean, Gravenberch has sort of developed into like a deep line playmaking six. He seemed as though he's getting the best out of him. What I've noticed this season so far, obviously it's early doors, is that you still got the same attacking output Liverpool usually have, but there's a lot more calmness about it. Because under Klopp last season, they could have feasibly actually won the league. It's just the issue is that obviously you got Man City just steamrolling, but uh, they were too chaotic at times. Like, I mean, you've only got to look at the FA Cup game against United, or actually any of the league games against United. Is that when chances weren't going in,
Yes,
they
yes.
they started to lose themselves a bit. Whereas I think under Slot, I think they know
Mhm.
that if they miss one chance, a next one's going to come, so it's fine. They don't have to say it's a, it's a bit like the old saying when Fred was at Man United, he'll play with like there's 5 minutes left every single game
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's just chaotic. There's no
yes,
composure about it. Yeah,
yes,
that's what Liverpool were last season. I think under Slot there's a bit of calmness. I still think
definitely.
they won't have enough to win the league because I think the two in front have just got a bit more about them, like in terms of consistency over the
But
season.
are they over relying on Mo Salah?
Yeah, I think. But to be fair, they got Chiesa in as an option, which is a very sort of astute signing. But I think
Yeah,
like
I
if you
was annoyed about him going to Liverpool.
yeah, I think if you take away his goals, I think they're mainly relying on Jota to be fit because Jota is a very, very good finisher.
He is, yeah.
Darwin, Darwin Nunes, I've got a mate who's a Liverpool fan, and he said to me that like with Nunes this season, he's basically giving him one more year, and it's going to be another case of like I think he wants him gone, like
Mm.
because Nunes is kind of like that like Gattuso meme where it's like sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's that with Darwin Nunes.
yeah,
Luis Diaz looks as though he's picked up form as well.
yeah.
He's starting the season really well. Um, I think the only concern for them is their contract situation with Salah, Trent, and Van Dijk really going forward.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway, I don't really want to sit here and talk about how good
But do
Liverpool.
you no? I just got two more questions about Liverpool. Do you think that Alexander Arnold is gonna go to Real Madrid as so many people are predicting at the end of the season?
Nah, I think he's future Liverpool captain material. I just think he stays, unless
Mm.
you know how when Liverpool fans were convinced they were getting Bellingham because it was like agent Trent, and then obviously Jude went to Madrid. Be funny if it's
Hmm.
agent Jude and Trent goes to Madrid instead,
Oh
which
wow,
which would be quite
wow,
funny.
yeah. No, that would be cruel. But yeah, on the other hand, did Arne Slot showed that okay, there is a few worries about Liverpool. Obviously, like if there is an injury to Van Dijk, who's the best replacement is Konsa. If anything happens to Konate, who's the best replacement? So they're short in that aspect. Um, and as far as Jota is concerned, yes, he's very good finisher, but his injury record is not that best. Um, it's not the best. I mean, so if there is any injuries to him, the best replacement for him would be Nunez, and is that enough? I'm not sure about that. So yeah, but has he shown though that he's got what it takes if backed, let's say next summer, to basically dominate the league? Because I think that Pep is not going to be here after this season.
Uh, Again, it just depends stuff like that. I think the real test is that like I would say any manager could win the first three games. Ten Hag's not won the first three games when he joined, but it's like any manager can win their first three games, but then when it comes to the business, sort of the thick of it, when the European fixtures, obviously there's more this year than there are other years. It just depends whether the squad depth's going to be sort of sort of right for that really.
Yeah.
That's the only issue. Obviously keeping players fit and what have you, but I think like I've got them as top four. I think
Oh,
I've
this season, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think my top four was at the start of the season. It was City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United. I think that was my top four.
You could still be right. You could still be right.
Yeah,
I have to agree that was also my top four going into the season. But what did you make of Declan Rice's red card?
I think it's the most stupid red card ever given. Not because of Declan Rice's fault. It shouldn't have been a second yellow card. Like, because so what happened was obviously Declan Rice he kicks the ball away from a player taking a free kick, right? Uh, which is a second yellow offence because it's kicking the ball away. However, the free kick shouldn't even be taken because the ball's still rolling, so it's an illegal free kick. So it kind of like cancels out the whole point of Declan Rice kicking the ball away. And plus, as well, João Pedro did the same thing in the first half, but he booted the ball 40 yards down the stands, right? When the ball was out of play and he didn't get a yellow card. Declan Rice taps the ball 2 yards away from the player, taking an illegal free
Yeah,
kick, and it's a second yellow card. The I always find it funny though, whenever on Sky Sports Dermot Gallagher always
Yeah,
rationalised and like talks about, well, you can't give it this week, but next week if the same thing happens, you can give it
yeah,
next week. And I'm just like, dude,
yeah.
like it's like last season with Garnacho's handball against Spurs.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes, yes. I remember. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he said
The
he
game
said
was 0-0, I believe, at the time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
he turned around and was like, oh, it's not handball. A week later, Christian Romero commits the same
Yes,
handball offence, and he's like, oh, yeah, definite handball. And I'm like, okay, so what's the like from this week to last week? Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I,
The
I, I,
one, the one where Garnacho, in the United game, in I think it was the Tottenham Stadium. That for me was much more of a clear penalty than the one that was actually given, and he tried to justify. So I really don't like to pay too much attention to his opinions, because at the end of the day, he's just gonna look after his guys, in the officials. Um, but Arsenal, though, from what we've seen in the first three games, the first game, comfortable win against Wolves 2-0. They go away to Villa. They managed to hang in there and survive after Villa managed to somehow miss 2-3 good chances, especially with Watkins is still recovering from the Euros final. And they managed to go on and win that game 2-0 again. And this game, they were winning until the red card, and they happened to just throw it away at the end. Sort of like, I still think that Gabriel and Saliba could have done better, especially with the run from Minte on the right from for Brighton. But it was just way too high of a line. Um, but from what we've seen so far, is it enough to just go on with this front three, especially with the form of Martinelli? So you would expect Rosa to start, but shouldn't they
um,
just spend that 50 million on Ivan Tony and just bring him in?
well, obviously Ivan Toney's in Saudi now, isn't he? So
Yeah,
it's
he's
like,
yeah, yeah. No, that's
uh,
what I mean. Shouldn't have they brought him in? Yeah.
um, to be honest, with the Ivan Tony situation, I think Brentford are actually happy to see the back of him because of his comments towards the club and how he
Oh yeah.
acted towards the end. My thing for Arsenal is that like I don't think Ivan Tony was the one for them. I think there's another striker in Sporting Lisbon in Victor Gyökeres who would have been actually so perfect for Arsenal because behind I think he finished second just behind Harry Kane last season in the European Golden Boot. And it's like people can say it's like, oh, it's the Portuguese league, this, that, and the other. He was absolutely tearing it up in every competition he was in, and
Yes.
already this season he's got 13 goal contributions at the start of September.
Yes.
Like he he for me would have been like the difference maker.
But why didn't they go for him?
Uh,
Because
I,
this is my only worry with Arsenal. And this season, if they're gonna win the league, they have to score obviously more goals than City, but be consistently winning games, especially in tight games. And the best person to get you out of that is always the strikers, because they have the smell of goal. Havertz isn't gonna get you 25, 30 goals. Haaland is already on 7 goals in 3 games. That's the level here.
yeah, I mean it's like just looking at the stats last season. Arsenal like what see this is where it's just a little trick here is that like last season Martinelli dropped like big time in terms of form compared to what he did the
Yes,
season before. He only got 6 goals. So really if they get
yes,
Martinelli firing again, right, and sort of going, they only scored 5 goals less than City last season and they had the best defense in the league.
but
Right.
do you know when all majority of the goals came from, or when
Set
they came?
well well they're really good at set pieces as well, which I found
Yeah,
really
set
sort of
pieces,
like
but also the timing. If you think about it, it was after December, after the New Year.
mm,
Before the New Year, they lost back-to-back games to Villa and West Ham and Fulham. I think it was also in
yeah.
there.
See,
That's 3 games they lost
yeah,
before the New Year.
see, this is with Arsenal, right? I think they've realised as well is that yeah, Okay, drawing 1-1 at home to Brighton this early stage in the season, obviously despite the red card factor and stuff like that. At the time, you can kind of sit there and go, "Oh, okay, you'll make up the points later on, right?" It's just the issue is they're going to drop points in a couple more games and then look back to the Brighton game and think, "Ah, this is where we lost it." Do you know what I mean?
And that
Like,
would be a mistake, though. That would be a mistake because what they need to do psychologically, is think about it and just say whatever. Just take it game by game. Like, don't
mm,
think about what happened last season. Think about this game. Like, for example, against Brighton, yes, you're one man down. You got a point. That's a point gained. That should be their mentality. Because if you think to yourself like, "Oh, I'm worried what City will do," then they're already in your head. You see what I mean? And that's not how you're gonna win. You have to think about yourself and think about the next game, and then the one after that, and then the one after.
yeah, it's just the issue with Arsenal is that like last season they uh they they complained and stuff like that. Mainly the Arsenal fans about how you can't stop this Man City machine, but it's like they actually had a great chance to win the league last season. Just it was themselves who dropped points like I say Fulham, Villa, like the Villa home game for
And the West
example.
Ham
Where
game, where
yeah,
they lost 2-0 and they had about 80 shots in that game. That was
yeah,
crazy.
and
Yeah.
it's like you've got all that, so it's like obviously everyone knows City will obviously like be a force to be reckoned with. But it's like even like when Liverpool have gone toe to toe with them and stuff like that, you look back and it's like, oh yeah, City this, City that, but it's like you're drawing games, you're losing games. That's not on City. City just took advantage of the fact that you've dropped points.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
so it kind of can go both ways in that front. But in terms of Arsenal this season, I think like I said, I think they'll be fine. I think their next game is actually the North London derby, which is going to
Yes.
be a bit.
Rice is missing that game. Declan Rice.
It might help. It actually might help them. To be fair, if they go a bit more pragmatic against them and just hit them on the counter because Spurs are going
Yeah,
to be
just
opening
don't lose.
fire.
Just don't lose the game because with City, right? One of the main things that is being helping them. Obviously, they're very good at what they do and the consistency that they have, and especially in the second half of the season where they go on these mad 10, 15 games of actually winning all of them, not even drawing, just keeping winning, winning, winning. They are a winning machine. But what really helps them at the end of the day is the other teams that's in the title race with them at the time just falling um, within with small margin. So, like for example, with Liverpool, we remember when after they won the league. No, there was a couple of times that they actually went back to back with in a title race with City, but there was like one or two games where they would lose and then City would just go and win all of the rest of the game. So with Arsenal, what I would say to Arsenal fans is, especially when they're playing at home, yeah, this is where they seem to be struggling the most. Away from home, they're fine. They play beautiful football, amazing, just a game, a good flow of to their game. But when they're playing at home, they play with so much pressure, and most of the time that comes from their fans because they want it so much. They have not won the Premier League for 20 years, and they want it so much that the pressure then passes on to the players. And the game against Brighton, even though they were one man down, and even though it was 1-1, even until the last few minutes, they were still getting chances to score, but they were too desperate to score because the fans are too desperate to win. So my only advice to Arsenal fans, if you guys want to get anything from this season, celebrate every game. Don't be anxious about losing the game because that's what that's what they've become. Arsenal fans, they're too worried about things going wrong rather than actually looking forward to things going right, because the atmosphere is amazing, like with Arsenal, because it's not as toxic as it used to be back in the days, especially in the latter days of Arsene Wenger. But these days, when you look at it, it's a mixture of like things are going really well, where they're winning 5-0, 6-0, home, away. And then the games where, let's say, after 1 hour is 0-0 or they're losing, they are just so desperate to win, and it just passes on to the players, and that's my only thing about them. And the other thing that would really help them, this is what I'm saying, a striker would help you, right? When you rely on so many different players to get you the goals, sometimes what happens is, without any explanation, you would see 4 or 5 players just getting out of form. Just you don't know what happened. They would just be out of form completely. But where a striker would be good at is like when all of these guys are out of form, he would carry the burden and he would get you the goals. That's what Haaland would do. That's what Van Persie used to do. That's what Rooney, like the big game players, they would take on the responsibility. And sometimes I get the feeling that with Saka or Trossard or even Odegaard, they go missing and they fade away from games and they look for someone else to take the responsibility, especially in really tight games.
Yeah, it's like so with like Martinelli dropping form didn't help him last season. I think this season Odegaard's got to be like I've obviously everyone knows about his creativity and stuff like that, but I think in terms of he needs to have like a couple of goals in his game. Saka is the most reliable in that front three in terms of getting goals and assists. Havertz, it's another one where it's like, do like will he have a better season than last season? No one really knows, so it's kind of like. Whereas it's like I agree with you, but it's like City know that obviously as long as he stays fit, Haaland is the guarantee. It doesn't matter whether like he's playing badly. It's like last season I found it
Mhm.
hilarious when people were like, "Oh, Haaland has only had 3 touches in the box," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but 2 of them have gone in." So like, do you know what I mean? 2 of them ended up in the back of net. So who cares? Who cares whether he's only having 3 touches in the box if 2 of them are going
Yeah,
in? That's
no one. Yeah, he
but
doesn't care. He
no,
certainly does not care. Yeah.
um,
But yeah, speaking about City, I think we're gonna conclude here.
yeah.
Pep says that the preseason has just finished for City. How scary is that?
Well, do you know what the weird thing is with City, right? Their pre-season usually lasts until December, doesn't it? Then after December, they go up,
Yeah,
they just turn around and go, oh, do you know what? We'll just win the next like 15 games in a row and just stop anyone else and win the league. Because
yeah,
that's all they do every season. It's a bit like you know how Real Madrid turn up and go, oh, we'll just win the Champions League, whatever.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's second nature to them. I
yeah,
I think I think the one component in their team though that they really sort of obviously they've dealt with it the last game or so, but in terms of the main player in their team, obviously got De Bruyne and Haaland, but Rodri's absolutely vital.
yeah,
Rodri absolutely keeps him ticking, and he is the best in the world by a country mile in this position in terms of everything. And it wouldn't surprise me even if he's like top three for Ballon d'Or this year, and I'm not even
yeah,
joking
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah,
like won the
he
Premier League, won the Euros,
he might
like
win it. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a bit of a scary thought when Pep's like, "Oh, preseason's over" and that. But Pep also does this thing where, like, every season he's like he kind of downplays City's chances, but knowing that he's just going to win 15 games in a row and win the title anyway.
yeah.
So it's
But is it a bit disrespectful him saying that?
I won't say. I think really, I don't think it's disrespect. I think it's
And the
when you
whole cigar thing as well, like so when he's celebrating the title, like, it's just like, come on, man, you don't need to do that. Just have some grace about you, man.
well, it's one of them where it's like I think, to be fair, I'd be in the same position where if I'd won all that stuff, you kind of have the right. No, but you kind of have the right to be a bit like be a bit cocky. Whereas, like,
I miss the days where Jose Mourinho used to get under his skin and just used to
oh,
get him annoyed, like in the Clásicos.
oh,
Those
bro,
days he used to be humble. Pep he used to be really, really humble, and now you look at him just coming out with nonsense like this. Oh, our preseason just finished now. Huh?
well,
Seriously?
there was this question on Twitter the other week, which I sadly knew the answer to. Is that like Who after 3 games played against Pep, like which 2 managers have got an unbeaten record against Pep after 3 or more games played against him, right?
Oh,
It's
Oli.
No, it's not Ollie because Ollie's been beaten by Pep, and so it's like it's unbeaten. So it's like
Oh, that he
never lost.
hasn't beaten at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Never.
yeah. And it's think former Everton and Southampton manager.
Oh, Claude. What's his
No,
name?
he's a current Netherlands manager.
Oh, Koeman.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
him.
United should hire him. They hired the wrong Dutch.
Him and the Chelsea manager that won on their first Champions League.
What the material?
Yeah.
When did he ever? When has he ever managed against Demetrio?
So the semi-final of the UCL.
Oh yes, no, the
Yeah.
quarterfinal in Barcelona when they won to 2012, right?
No, that was a semi. It was a semi-final of that
Was
competition.
that the semi-final
Yeah,
with Torres?
yeah. Torres and Gary Neville decided to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Okay.
when
What? There's a third guy.
no. So the third game for Di Matteo was the when Di Matteo was Schalke manager. He drew 2-2 against Pep when he was at Bayern Munich.
Right.
So
Okay.
those are the only 2 managers, right, that have like got an unbeaten record against Pep after
And
like
and you
3
knew
games.
the answer to this.
Yeah, I knew the answer. Well, I knew it was Koeman, but I didn't know about Di Matteo because I didn't
Oh
realize he
wow.
managed at
Wow.
Schalke.
That is
But
impressive.
like it's his head-to-head record against managers is unbelievable. I think only Klopp's actually got like a better record as well against him. I think Klopp's like won
Better
12.
than Oli.
I think Ollie and Pep's record's like level, but
Okay.
Ollie used to have the number of Pep when he was in charge. Like,
Oh, he was. Yeah.
but
He did. Yeah.
anyway, but I think that concluded everything then.
Yeah, that should conclude it there. We're gonna leave it there. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the show, and following us on YouTube, and also downloading the podcast. It's available on all podcast platforms. We're gonna upload this in the morning, all of it on there. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you so much, Nathan, for joining us. We are gonna let me just remove this. Yes. So yeah, we're gonna see you guys next Thursday. Hopefully Trey will be joining us in that show, and I'm sure he'll make the case for Erik ten Hag much more than I tried to do in this show. So until the next one, guys. See you.
Yeah.